Hey everybody, this is tarekith, and today I wanted to kind of play around a little bit on the 707 that I just got. Some of you probably saw my first thoughts on it. I've been having a lot of fun using this. Actually kind of got sucked into it quite a few times and haven't got my review done yet. There's still a few things I want to kind of go over like mentally um, that I feel comfortable with before I sit down and actually try to explain this to other people. But I've been having a lot of fun with this actually. It's been a pretty cool device. Once I got the workflow down, it's really easy for me to like sequence ideas, record ideas. I can go back and tweak them pretty easy later. So I wanted to kind of just go through some of the workflow of what I'm doing so people can see like where I'm coming from when I talk about this. Let me set things up for you. So the last 3 or 4 days, I've been writing about 8 scenes. Each of these scenes, you can see there's basically the horizontal rows. If you're familiar with Ableton Live, it's the exact same concept. Each scene is its own song idea. Usually it's 8 bars. I just sat down each day, a couple times a day, and just jammed out a few ideas. Sometimes I copied some of my clips from the previous scene, just to give it some continuity as it flowed through the set from top to bottom. So yeah, I've did that a whole full pass of that. I did just writing down some quick ideas. I use a lot of preset sounds. A lot of the sounds aren't final, just placeholders or things I want to go back and tweak into shape. And that's what I've been doing today. Is kind of taking a second pass at these and really diving a little bit deeper into the 707 to kind of tweak my sounds and shape the sequences to be just what I want. Um, and starting to kind of get a feel for like how I want to set up the performance aspect of this. I've 3 knobs I can assign, and while I like the idea of having like a delay send on every channel, I'm not sure I always need just a filter or um, this mod knob changes all the time, so it's never really consistent. So I have a few ideas about setting up some macros for that, but it'd be a lot of mod matrix patching. I'm not sure I want to do for every single patch in the whole set. Anyway, so that's just kind of the background. I'm just jumping around a little bit in the set today and just tweaking things into shape. Like I said, a lot of the sounds were just things I picked from the preset library really quick when I was jamming out the idea. And I'll decide now like what I want to keep, what I don't want to keep, what I want to modify, that sort of thing. So yeah, bear with me. Let's just dive in. And as we go, I'll tell you a little bit about what I think about this and the things I like and what I don't like. So just to get kind of a quick idea of the sound of the set, it's sort of like an atmospheric dub, sort of techno thing. Chill out, but still danceable in some ways. So you can hear kind of the things I have already recorded. Right there, I can tell like the lead sound in that like is definitely something I'm probably going to go back and mess with. So some of these I've touched up already. One of the things I do like about this is you can see you can launch scenes like horizontally. You don't have to keep everything horizontal if you don't want to in the 707. You could have clips from different tracks. Only one clip on a track at a time, but you can take a bunch of clips on totally separate horizontal rows and save that as a scene. You can save up to 8 of those here in the 707. That's kind of how I've got it already set up. Just going sequentially, like I don't really plan to jump around or mix clips up that much. Like every row for me will be like a different song. So let's see, what else do we have? So I think this is the song I'm going to kind of work on next. This is sort of this breakbeat thing I started. I just wanted to throw a breakbeat track in this song or in this set like towards the end, and then kind of go back into more 4/4 stuff. So at the same time, like it chills out the track a little bit too much, I think. So I want to add a little more energy back. It's a little sort of 90s trance right now. I want to kind of tweak that up a little bit too, make it a little darker and harder sounding. So let's dive in and see what we can do here. Kind of wanted to point out one of the things I like so much about this is it's so easy to mute things. If you're I'm in mute mode right now, you can tell right here, but if I wasn't, I could just hold mute and press the track select button to actually mute or unmute things. So anytime you can kind of do like a momentary switch. The other thing that's kind of cool is if you're on like a drum track, like my tracks 1, 2, and 3 are drum tracks. You can hold the select button down and then you can mute individual sounds. Red is muted, blue isn't. So that's kind of cool. There's a lot of different ways you can access like your mute settings from wherever you are. So no matter what, you're kind of always like in a performance mindset, which I really like. It's still, unfortunately, no way to like unmute like all the muted drums at once. You have to kind of go in there and do it one by one. So that's kind of a bummer, just because there's no way to like bring everything back if you want, if you have like multiple drum tracks. Take a little bit of jumping around, but it's still a pretty nice feature overall. One of the interesting things that took me a while to kind of get my head around here on the 707 is how the drum send effects work. So basically there's a delay and a reverb for the entire kit. And if you want to actually use like the knobs here, this effects knob to control like your effect sends, like to your global delay and reverb, you actually have to set the kit reverb and delay up first, and then every single individual clip also has a delay and reverb setting. There's the delay, there's the reverb. So it took me a while. I was turning the knob and I couldn't get any delay to happen. I couldn't figure out what was going on. I had to go to the global kit settings here, this set with the knob, and then you can see the delay and reverb, and I'll turn those up. Another thing that kind of caught me out when I was working on the 707 initially was that if I did have like this master kind of kit settings selected, choosing a pad here on the keys wouldn't actually select that key like it should. If you see right now, when I press a key, a different drum sound, like it actually selects it on the screen. But if you're over here in the whole global kit settings, then doing that doesn't do anything. It doesn't actually change on the screen until you get back in that area with the cursor. Anyway, small point. If you want to save what you're working on, you have to press Shift and then, Function. And then here's that you can actually name whatever you're working on. The naming procedure is not too bad on this. It could be a little quicker, but overall, like once you learn what all the knobs do, it's pretty quick to do things. You can't actually copy names or paste names, so you can say like an Electron gear. It's kind of a shame. One of the things I noticed was that in the recent update 1.02 for this, they gave you the ability to copy and paste notes like in the sequencer, but the key combinations function and like up to copy and function and down to paste, and you could use that key functionality everywhere on the 707 if they kind of implemented that. It'd be a really consistent way to do those kind of functionalities. Like if you wanted to copy tracks, or if you wanted to copy drum pads, if you want to copy a name as you're naming something, so you're not always calling things, having to retype the name out every time. So stuff like that would be really, really useful. Oh yes, you can't actually save while you're playing. You have to actually stop before you can save. That's kind of frustrating. So is this like double dialogue thing? Are you sure? Yes. Enter. This file exists. Overwrite. Yes. I wish I could just like drop that to one menu, or just kind of like tell you once and be like, okay, I get it. I save a lot as I go when I know I like things I'm going to go kind of explore around. So being able to come back to like a save state is really nice, and having to go through that kind of long-winded process every time is like, yeah, all right, like I've done it enough. I understand that. Just let me save. see if I can find a different bass sound here. This one's alright, but so as you can see, like as I actually scroll this kind of preset list of like all the different patches on here, I'm in the synth bass category, and it'll actually audition the sounds live, like in real time with what you already have recorded, which is really really nice. And it won't actually commit that sound to your sequence until you press enter to kind of say yes, I do want that sound, which is really nice. But the downside is you can also keep tweaking things like while you're in this sort of um, finder mode where you're looking for things. And a couple times like I found like a really good sound and like went to jump to a different track and realized I didn't hit enter first to actually load it, and then I lost all my settings. I had to start over again. So just something to be aware of, like if you like what you hear, and make sure you hit enter to actually like commit to that preset. Otherwise if you go to a different track, like it's going to go back to what the last saved one was. So there's a few things we could talk about here with the whole synth screen. I guess the first thing I would say is just the way the knobs are implemented on the 707. You basically have two modes of like changing some of these parameters. Just like normally turning it moves it really slow, like one digit at a time, for like really fine tuning things. You can also press it in and turn it, which moves in groups of 50, and you can also hold shift and turn it, which also moves in groups of 50. So there's a couple different ways to kind of like accelerate like going through a parameter range. One of the downsides though is like something like cutoff here. I mean, it's got a huge range, like 1023. So if you forget to press shift or press down, you're trying to change it quickly, like you have to turn this thing like a billion times. And also once you hold shift down, like it tends to jump even faster. Like if you turn faster, I think, I'm not sure if there's like acceleration or it's just super, super sensitive, but so it takes a while to get a feel for like how you jump around in the parameters and like how you fine tune ranges. Before I leave the screen, like overall, I actually find like navigation on like the synthesizer edit screen really, really well done. Um, at first looked like I had information, but with the arrow keys, you can jump up and over at the same time. There's this kind of system-wide thing where if you hold shift and press the arrow key, it jumps all the way to one side or the other of the screen. So it usually kind of starts up with this control screen selected. You can set like which octave is playing and portamento, if it's monophonic or polyphonic. If you just hold shift and press the two buttons, I can instantly jump to the mixer where I can set like the delay, reverb, the level. Just one button down to the effects, couple over to the filter. It's actually pretty intuitive once you get used to using the arrows to kind of navigate around. And then if you want to really dive down the rabbit hole, you just hit enter on any parameter. And now you can do it like per partial. So there's 4 partials per sound. And you have control over every single one of those like all at once with like a whole bunch of different settings in here. Yeah, there's a ton of settings for the filter envelope, amp envelope, all your LFO settings. Like you can fine tune like the synth settings for like every single partial. So 4 different sounds that actually make up one preset. It's really powerful. It's a little, and this mode I find is kind of a little really detailed. Like you really have to kind of spend some time using it to get a feel for it. It shows you a lot of information at once, but it's not the kind of thing you can like kind of quickly do without really intently trying to look at what you're doing at the same time. But I really love like this kind of grand overview here of like the synth engine. It's easy to jump around. You have basically two pages of 4 parameters per block on here. You just use the function key to jump back and forth. So yeah, this works really, really well for me as I'm like kind of fine tuning my sounds. Like I can quickly just be like, oh, I want to change the filter, or I want to add some LFO to that. Like, and I find this really easy to do that with. Like, use the arrow keys, you can jump around pretty quickly. Use the shift key, you can go from one end to the other. Yeah, I think it's really well implemented for like the size of space that they have with the screen and like just how many buttons they could put on the front. One of the things I like about this kind of global like live session view display is if you go all the way to the top of a track, you can actually rename the track, which will show down here where it says like track 5 untitled right now. So you can have all your tracks named different things if you want. Same with each clip, you can name all the clips if you want. You can set the colors like a lot of different functionality on here. Like for the note mode, you can change like the color of the pads is which ones are lit, active. If you have like a synth track, you can say, I want the octave buttons to be this color, but the key buttons to be this color. You can change the color of all the different tracks. The only thing you can't really change the color of is the clip grid itself, like all the different clip colors. Like basically once you're on the clip view, like yellow ones are kind of waiting to be triggered. The green flashing ones are the ones that are triggered. When you're in clip view, you use like the sequencer buttons to kind of scroll up and down. You can see like here on the display, like I'm at number 1 right now. It's all the way at the top, and I can scroll down the display. You can see these are the ones waiting to be triggered. So you can jump around and kind of like play different clips or different tracks this way. So this is really cool. This is kind of like how I've sort of built this setup so I could do this I could have this ability to kind of jump around between tracks if I want to. Like I said before, I do consider like every row like a song, but if I want to kind of improvise, I have that ability. They're all in the same key. But yeah, as you can see, like you can't like color individual scenes. Like green is always one that's playing, flashing green is always like the one that's paused. The rest are yellow, that sort of thing. So that's something I wish I could change. Like I'd love to have every single scene be like its own color, just so I can kind of differentiate where I am in the set kind of more quickly as I'm in this clip mode. But yeah, that's kind of just a quick overview of like how I'm using the 707. I'll kind of focus in on a sound for a little bit, dial in on synth engine, this whole shift plus sound to kind of get in the synth engine really quickly and tweak things as I see fit. I'm still working on some of the sequencer functionality. Like I understand the basics, like it's pretty obvious, but there's a lot of tricks you can do that I haven't really spent much time like programming ahead of time, like for the live set. So that's kind of my focus the next 2 weeks. And I think once I get like a better handle on that, I'll be able to do the whole video review that everyone keeps asking about. Anyway, hope that was useful. I'll do a little more tweaking here before we go. And like I said, stay tuned for the review if that's something you're interested in.